Hello, I am Justice Louis D. Brandeis, and I once said, we can either have democracy in this country, or we can have great wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we cannot have both. Today I want to discuss the significance of this statement, how it applied in my time, and why it remains profoundly relevant today. When I spoke these words, it was the early 20th century, an era marked by the rapid expansion of industrial capitalism. Wealth was becoming increasingly concentrated in the hands of a small group of powerful industrialists and financiers. The rise of monopolies and trusts created economic inequalities so vast that they threatened to erode the foundations of democracy. Workers faced grueling conditions, their voices drowned out by the sheer power of moneyed interests. At the same time, corruption infiltrated political systems, with wealthy individuals using their influence to shape laws and policies that served their interests rather than the public good. I believed then, as I do now, that democracy and concentrated wealth are inherently incompatible. Democracy depends on equality, equality of opportunity, equality under the law, and equality in political participation. When wealth becomes overly concentrated, it allows a select few to dominate public discourse, influence elections, and control the levers of power. This creates a system where the majority's interests are subordinated to those of the wealthy elite, undermining the very essence of democratic governance. In my time, we addressed these issues with bold reforms. The progressive era saw the rise of antitrust laws, such as the Sherman Act, which sought to break up monopolies and restore fair competition. Labor unions fought for better wages and working conditions, and regulations were introduced to protect consumers and ensure a more equitable economy. These efforts were not just about economics. They were about safeguarding democracy itself from the corrupting influence of concentrated wealth. Now, let's fast forward to today. The challenges we face are eerily similar, but magnified by modern dynamics. Wealth inequality has reached staggering levels, with the richest 1% controlling more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. Global corporations wield unprecedented influence, shaping policies and exploiting loopholes to avoid accountability. The rise of digital monopolies has created new forms of concentrated power, where a handful of tech giants control the flow of information, often acting without transparency or oversight. This wealth concentration doesn't just affect economics, it distorts democracy. Campaign finance systems allow billionaires and corporations to pour unlimited funds into elections, drowning out the voices of ordinary citizens. Lobbying efforts by the wealthy ensure that policies favor the interests of the few, whether through tax breaks, deregulation, or weakened labor protections. As a result, the average person feels increasingly powerless in a system that seems rigged against them. The consequences are dire. When people lose faith in the fairness of the system, they disengage from the democratic process. Voter turnout declines, trust in institutions erodes, and polarization deepens. This creates fertile ground for demagogues and authoritarian leaders who exploit public frustration to consolidate power, further undermining democracy. But we must remember, democracy is not a passive state. It is an ongoing effort. Just as we fought monopolies and corruption in my time, we can address today's challenges with bold action. We must advocate for policies that reduce wealth inequality, such as progressive taxation, stronger labor protections, and antitrust enforcement. We must demand transparency and accountability from corporations and ensure that our campaign finance systems prioritize the voices of voters over the influence of money. We also need to adapt to new challenges, like the unchecked power of tech giants. Regulating digital platforms to prevent monopolistic practices and protect democratic discourse is critical in the modern era. Education and media literacy are equally important, empowering citizens to discern truth from manipulation in an age of disinformation. The fight for democracy is a fight for fairness, equality, and opportunity for all. As I said, we cannot have democracy alongside the unchecked concentration of wealth. But by standing together, advocating for reforms, and holding those in power accountable, we can ensure that democracy thrives. For more on the current information war and the threats facing democracy today, follow information-warfare.com. Thank you.